happy Tuesday 10 at 10. I am your host and baker influencer, Richard Charpentier, and every Tuesday we get together to answer your questions. All questions sent from bakers, answered from yours truly. Let's get started with our first question of the day. It's about emulsifiers. And someone says, they hear a lot about baking with enzymes, but can combining them with emulsifiers give better results? And in terms of, eating quality and shelf life. Well, to answer your questions, yes, having a combination of enzyme technology and emulsifiers can help. But if you go further into it, you can use enzymes also as emulsifiers. For example, some of the lipases, phospholipases, can act and cleave some of the fatty acid triglycerides and turn them into more emulsifiers, which you could be using enzyme as emulsifiers. So it all depends on the type of enzymes you're using and the type of formulation you're using to keep your shelf life. But yeah, you're thinking about it the right way. The combination of a good emulsifier, mono and di or other lecithin or other emulsifiers can help retain a soft texture longer than without it. It can help with blister points in frozen applications, etc. It serves a lot of purposes as enzymes based on the type of enzymes you're using, whether or not it's an amylase, a lipase, a zelanase, etc. Will have different, specific target at which they work. That's what enzymes do. And if you want to learn more about enzymes, I highly recommend you go to the Bakerpedia page and type enzymes, and you'll find lots of wonderful articles written where you can take your time at your leisure and learn more about enzymes and how to best formulate with enzymes. But a great question, and thank you for sending it. Our second question: do all bakeries use the same temperature for the kill point of yeast in baking? So a very good question about yeast and the kill point of yeast. Yeast, as we all aware, they help for the bread to leaven and rise and give you the beautiful aroma and flavor that we know of beer. But what is yeast? Yeast is Saccharomyces cerevisiae, so yeast beer, and it's the same yeast used for beer manufacturing. So, and that yeast, when put into an environment, either a bread or a beer, will start multiplying as temperature rise up. There's a lot of textbooks talking about the kill points, but overall, once you reach 140 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 60 degrees Celsius, all the yeast, the Saccharomyces cerevisiae type, will be killed off, and therefore nothing will survive. And when you know that any baked product we bake to 100 degrees Celsius or 200 degree Fahrenheit minimum for a safe kill points, you have nothing to worry about yeast being still active. Although, there are a lot of different wild yeast in the environment constantly on your desk, on your hands, and that's why they say wash your hands. So if you have other issues that could be potentially yeast growth on new product, it's not coming as long as check with a thermometer that you've reached the 60 Celsius or 140 degree Fahrenheit. You don't have to worry about the yeast used for baking, but maybe you have other things in your environment that could create issues. So I hope I answered a question, and thank you for sending it. Now for our last question of the day: is there's someone producing puff pastry. It's about pastry sheets, and they're using oil, lecithin, sorbic acid, propionate. But one thing that they're seeing is the puff pastry or the sheets start turning yellow after a few months in the freezer. Do you have any ways to improve that? So again, we're trying to pinpoint and answer your questions with the minimum amount of information. based on my personal experience working with lamination, it seems like it's the fat you're using is oxidized. And once you do have free radical, even though at freezing temperature, it will keep on basically modifying that. It could also be, in the first instinct is you have an oxidized fat that you're using, and then therefore it will deteriorate your product in making the dough or the sheets yellow over time. That's one. And in order to verify, you can do peroxidase value, a peroxidase value, and figure out what is it in your fat, because it could be, the fat you're using and you're reseeding it, because once you have free radicals in a system, it could be in a tank or however your system, if it's not cleaned well, it tend to continue having the oxidative, the peroxide, the free radical keep on changing your fat. Could so also be in your dough. You mentioned you're using different ingredients and some acids, but some ingredients that are oxidizing agents, if you're using those, and if it's overdosed over time, it will change the color of your product and tend to make your product darker. And if you do have butter, that's one issue. It could be that simply the problem with your freezer when you're storing it and your cycle of temperature, your swings go much higher. So, and in any products, it's like equilibrium. If you have if it thaws and freezes for several cycles, it would be a problem. I would start checking all of those things. Check the oxidative rancidity, whether or not if it's oxidized, your fat is oxidized. Check your cycle of temperature to ensure that there's no changes in your freezer, and also check your pH of your dough when it's done, because it's a good indicator. Where are you? Are you really, because really high? And then fourth, what kind of ingredients are you using? Are you potentially using oxidizing ingredients that could later down the road be creating negative effect for your pastry sheets? I appreciate it. I appreciate all the questions that you sent over. Thank you again for watching Tuesday 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and we'll see you next week. Happy baking.